Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. I am thrilled to introduce you to my guest today because Tyler and I go way back to just a couple months ago, right?
Exactly right.
Yes, and yet I feel like I've known him forever. He is a light and a life, and I'm just so excited to introduce you to him. However, before I do that, I need you to follow this podcast. It makes such a difference. All you've got to do is click subscribe or follow, depending on where you're looking, and then you'll get alerts about people like Tyler, and that will make your day a little brighter and bring you a little productive joy. So today, I have with us Tyler Mount. Tyler is lots of things. But to name a few, he is the CEO of Henry Street Creative. He is a Broadway producer and a multiple Tony Award winner. He is a killer presenter who absolutely owns the stage. He is a social media guru. He is also a dog dad to Henry, well named. He is a self-appointed godparent to his sweet little niece that he chooses to see at least 5 days a week. And he's an honorary doctor. He is also an Oprah enthusiast. And today he's a guest on Productive Joy. Tyler, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Two doctors in a room together. You know
I mean, we
you
could change
worked for yours.
Hey, you worked for yours too.
I guess that's true. That's true.
Just a little different type of work. So, Tyler, you are such a fun human. Like, just being in your presence, you can feel it. And yet, nobody knows that yet on this podcast. So, what would you say in like 30 seconds that would get people to be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this episode?
Oh my gosh. So, today we're going to be talking about a lot of things. The thing that I've built a career accidentally on is the power of authenticity. And how do we harness this in our business? As someone who tried to be someone other than who he was for a very long time, I started to find that I found success, but most importantly, joy when I started being myself. I started loving myself, and I started screaming at the top of my lungs who I was so that my tribe could find me. And so today we're going to explore that and hopefully inspire a few of you to live your authentic life.
I really appreciate the way you said that because it helps your tribe find you. We're not for everyone. You and I are both a bold flavor.
100%. Some people don't want bold, and guess what? They're not hanging out with you or I. You know what I mean? And that's fine.
And I am okay with that. But how did you figure that out? Because you said you didn't used to lean into that part of yourself. Something must have shifted that brought you to the point where you were like, yeah, you know what? I can't keep wearing this mask.
Yeah, I found my tribe when I started my career in theater and on Broadway with like-minded people who loved me and accepted me for who I was. Being different is no stranger than being left-handed, right? And so what I started to find is growing up through adolescence, right? I was constantly trying to change and appease the masses, right? What do these people I want to fit in with want? So I'm going to become that. And what I learned was that wasn't successful, okay? Because they can see right through it, just like we as humans can. And so what you accidentally end up doing is ostracizing the people you're trying to fit in with, while you're also ostracizing the people who are actually your tribe. So it wasn't until I started to find joy in the community that I was accidentally building that I realized that that's a community I wanted. Therefore, me just showing up authentically as me was not only easier, but it was the only real solution.
Was there a person that let you be that bold, or was it just that tribe of people? Was it that you found your humans collectively, or did somebody say, Tyler, stop trying to be thing to everyone?
I don't know if I have that one specific obvious person. I would say that my high school theater director was certainly instrumental in the formation of who Tyler is now in terms of my love of the arts and my love of theater and wanting to pursue that in college. And then obviously the colleagues that I made in college and university had a tremendous impact on me. And then I could say the same thing about the people I've worked with professionally. But to answer your question, I would say it is like a beautiful amalgamation of the dozens, if not hundreds, of people who have impacted me in my career and my professional development.
I like that you managed to use the word amalgamation.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I go through phases. Amalgamate is like on my list. So is judicious. So you might hear like an SAT word in today's conversation.
I fully appreciate a good SAT drop. I mean, like that's good stuff. Okay, so I am so glad you found your humans, and then those humans turned you into a couple different things, right? So you pursued theater for a while, and now you're a Tony Award winning producer, but you thought you were actually going to be in the place, right? Like,
Yeah.
wasn't that your plan?
I mean, absolutely.
Okay, so you had to pivot. You had to change how you saw things. What did that look like? Like, take us through that journey of, because that's not where you are now. Like, I mean, yes, you're still producing and doing amazing things with that, but you also have this booming business that is letting other people find their authentic self. So take us on your trip.
Yeah. So, if you know one thing about me, it's that I'm very, very self-motivated. It is a superpower. I've never had to find motivation. I've always just like magically had it when I woke up in the morning, and I'm really lucky for that. And I relentlessly pursue what I want. And, not to be annoying, I typically get what I want through pursuit, not without failure. Okay, let's be clear, but like relentless pursuit. And so theater is, as you can imagine and probably know, a highly competitive industry. I would say it's more competitive than most industries in the world. Even at the height of your career, the majority of people are not making a livable wage, even on Broadway, because the idea that you're working 52 weeks out of the year on Broadway is very, very, very unlikely, on top of the fact that you're ever on Broadway, right?
Mhm.
And so all of those things combined really leave a grim prognosis for the majority of people who are pursuing this professionally. Okay. I knew that I was the exception. I knew that I wanted this really bad. I knew that I was good at it. And I knew that if we follow joy, success comes.
Yeah.
And so I always, always, always woke up excited because I loved what I was doing. I love what I'm doing. And so when I moved to New York City in 2013, what I realized was it's not as easy, okay, which I intellectually knew. It's
Right.
different experiencing that firsthand in your body day in and day out. But I also knew that that wasn't going to deter me. The thing that was the hardest for me to reconcile with is the fact that I stopped liking it.
Cool.
And so it was a really big aha moment that I worked on in therapy, because it's this concept that I felt like I was quitting. And what was told to me, and what has really reframed the way I look at most things in life, is that quitting is stopping, right? Your dreams changing and pursuing something different with just as much vigor is not quitting.
Mhm.
And what I started to realize is I dreaded getting up in the morning in order to go pursue acting,
Hmm.
right? I did it for a blip on the radar, 6 months professionally in New York City, and I hated it. I didn't want to do it. And that's when I fell in love with stage management, because you get to be in charge of the show. And I love power. And then from there, I fell into content creation on Broadway, and I was one of Broadway's first influencers. And that was like, a former life of mine. And then I fell into producing as I transitioned to corporate America,
Yeah.
where I was like, oh, I can really get my sea legs in digital marketing and personal brand at some of the more noted organizations, while I still remain tangentially, involved in the Broadway community, producing and creating the shows that I would love to see and be a part of. So that is how that journey got us to today with Henry Street Creative, my digital marketing agency, and my theatrical production company that produces some of Broadway's biggest and best works.
So here's what I hear, and it makes me very excited. You have some very specific, unique genius in you, things that you were born to do, things that just come out of you naturally. And although that started in theater, it doesn't stay there. It can bleed over into any and all other parts of your life. And I think sometimes we get stuck in a box and we think, okay, I am classically trained as this, therefore that is all I can do. But the older I get and the more I live life, the more I realize that no, that talent spreads into everything. So to give you an example, I knew I was going to be an educator from the time I came out of the womb. That is what I was going to do. But I was raised by an entertainer. My father had the longest running comedy show in Vegas in the 70s and 80s. So I used to write, like in my yearbook, I said, in 10 years, I'm going to be a teacher during the school year and an entertainer in the summers.
Love that.
Right. But what I didn't realize is that a teacher is an entertainer all day, every day, in front of all the audiences that don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Like they didn't pay to come to your show.
Correct. They're forced to by the state, quite literally.
Exactly. And they are not interested in what you're selling. So what I learned, though, is that I was able to transfer those skills. That's what you've done. You've transferred your skills of being an excellent producer into producing humans' brands out into the universe. First of all, how cool. Good on you. Secondly, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in that transition from, okay, I do this on stage to I'm doing this for people on a social platform that has nothing to do with Broadway anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. My answer is really clear to me because I've thought about this a lot. This is true with, I could say, any degree and any career on earth, but we always at my company joke about, like, if you need something done, hire a theater kid, right? I can do it faster. I'm more competent. I can do it cheaper. I can just do because I'm like, whenever we're in the theater, you're like, I have $4 in a paperclip and we have to make it work. And there's no like not making it work. The show goes up at 8, right? Wow. And so that philosophy has really empowered me to have confidence in the majority of skill sets that we need. But the thing that I would say that, to your point, makes me, in my opinion, and my team better marketers than people who went to traditional marketing school is the fact that I am one of the nation's better narrative storytellers, right? I'm not saying I'm the only, there are thousands of us, okay? But as someone who makes a living telling people's stories on stage, right? If we approach marketing through this lens and really try to create an emotional connection to a brand or a person versus buy this from me, let me sell this thing to you, we find that results are natural byproducts of our work. So sure, did I go and get a postgraduate and like, am I trained by MIT? Yes. Okay. But that's not where, my actual life experience that informs my marketing prowess comes from. That only gives me the analytical skills I need to report on metrics, right? And gauge the efficacy of my work, right? But in terms of how I show up, that was most greatly impacted by my love of storytelling from a young age.
And you are excellent at it. I have seen you in action. And what's fun is you don't even realize in the 15 minutes to an hour that we get with you, how many things you've crammed into that time and the thoughtfulness behind every word. And I think that's the skill that most of us need more of in the storytelling space, right? Like, what story am I trying to tell? And in our company, we talk about setting a clear target. Like, what will it look like if you're successful? Because if the target isn't clear, then you might have done the best work you could possibly do, and it totally missed what you were trying to accomplish. And you don't do that. So you do this for people through Henry Street Creative. Tell us a little bit about, one, how people would find you, but two, what they would find once they got there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my consultancy firm, Henry Street Creative, you can find us at henrystreetcreative.com, or you can find me online at tylergmount.com. And our work is quite simple, okay? Our work is difficult, but simple in terms of we specialize specifically in branding some of the most prolific thought leaders almost entirely in real estate. Now, I've represented people outside of real estate many, many times. You name the industry, we've probably worked there. But in terms of where my bread and butter is, where my niche is, it is absolutely in real estate. And what we specialize in are the top 1% of real estate agents, brokers, developers, builders. And I've been really fortunate enough to amass a lifetime marketing portfolio that exceeds $7 billion in new development. I've consulted with and collaborated with everyone from Ryan Serhant, power broker to the stars, to Spencer Raskoff, founder of Zillow, to the CEOs of Twitter, T-Mobile, and even a sitting United States presidents. And what I learned through this process is the fact that personal brand, right? The idea of representing yourself as a brand and then everything else you touch turns to gold is the single most important thing that we can be doing in our business today. Because what I've learned is that what you do is typically not unique.
Right.
How you do it and who you are is the only thing that differentiates you. And so I've learned that if people like me, they want to work with me. If people like you, they want to work with you because we want to shop with friends. We don't want to be sold to. And so that overarching philosophy is what guides our consultancy work and all of the work that we do in digital marketing for real estate brands and non-real estate brands alike.
I love the simplicity. You said it was difficult, but simple. And I think that's the key to this. If people like you, they will work with you, period. Why do we make that so complicated? Why do we muddy those waters? It is super simple. I love that. Okay, and I've seen it in action, and I've seen the fruits of your labor, if you will, the difference between, okay, this is what it looked like before we touched it and it wasn't so great, and this is what it looks like now. So if you're talking to a bunch of humans who want to do it differently and want to create a little more productive joy, what advice would you give them? I feel like it's going to kind of be a full circle moment, right? So you started out talking about being your authentic self. You just said that your brand is really about who you are and not what you do. So what would you say to people to create a little more productive joy that will end in dollar signs?
I love this. Okay. So I think oftentimes in life, we look at this backwards. We say, okay, how do I make money? And I want to remind you that no matter who you are, no matter what you do, there is potential to make more money than you could ever imagine doing whatever it is you do. I am not kidding. If you're a trash man, I guarantee you, okay, there is a different job other than being a trash man that you could start to parlay your exciting joy of trash pickup elsewhere and become a millionaire. Like I promise there's like an invention waiting for you to make. Okay. The same thing is true with no matter who you are. I think, and I'm not stealing the word joy because this is like the theme of the podcast, but I've said for years that I deeply believe that the compass to success is joy.
Sure.
And I deeply believe that if we follow our joy, the dollar signs come naturally. Okay. It is only when we stop following our joy and start doing things out of fear or requirement or necessity or obligation that we start to lose sight on why we're here as humans and why we're here doing what it is we're doing. And I have found that when I stopped putting pressure and started to just do things that I loved, I made more money than I ever imagined, right? What we get caught up in time and time again is, let's just use real estate for an example. As a real estate agent, I need to dress a certain way because that's how real estate agents dress, and talk a certain way because that's how real estate agents talk. My answer to that age-old question is like, says who? There is no book. And I could show a use case where every single person acting every individual way has been successful. But the similarities between everyone who finds success is typically that they're unapologetically themselves. And so what I find is anyone, no matter what industry you're in, although it sounds cheesy and although it sounds impossible and couldn't possibly be true, I believe that if you start asking yourself, does this bring me joy? And if the answer is no, then changing directions, I think that leads us to success.
Oh, I could not agree more. And I actually have a Post-it note right over here to prove it that says, I want to, I get to, I choose to, instead of I have to, right?
Yes.
If I'm doing something because I have to, my attitude, my abilities, everything gets diminished. But if I approach it from the I get to, there is joy there. And I'm not, the toxic positivity expert over here. This is legitimately just who I am. But it's a choice every single day. Like I can waller in the bullcrap real easily, but that's not where I choose to live. And that's what I see in you, Tyler, is this genuine desire to find the fun things, right? Like I was
Mhm.
watching some of your clips just preparing for this today, and everything you do is joy filled. Like it is, and I know it's authentic because I've watched you in action, right? Like you're just you might have a moment where you're not feeling all the joy, but
Yeah, of course.
that's not what you're gonna ever publicly see because this is part of who you are. And I am so grateful that you choose to share that with people and that you do so all over the place. So you are quite the keynote speaker, quite sought after, particularly in the real estate space. Like you said, how did you land in real estate? Like of all of the places that you could have landed, why real estate?
Okay, so that's a good question. I would say it's coincidental. I don't think anything in life is coincidental, but you know, th- the the brass tacks is the following. When I was in college, my dad had a business colleague who oversaw a real estate firm in Austin, and he got me a minimum wage job there filing contracts. And I really, really enjoyed it. And through a strange series of events, the company shut down and a new company was formed, and the agents who worked there were the top in class in terms of Austin real estate. They brought me on board as an executive assistant. That's where I learned everything in terms of like the transactional process, contracts, things like that. I got my license at 19, 20 in Texas. Then when I transitioned to New York, I worked in entertainment for about 8 years, 9 years. And then I got a job opportunity after I was working at NBC, the broadcast company, for about 2.5 years to go back to real estate and be head of digital for a very, very significant real estate development portfolio. My answer was yes, because the paycheck, and I have zero qualms. And I started that job in New York real estate in March of 2020. So you do the math.
Oh,
Could not
fun.
have had worse timing. And so within 8 months, that position had been eliminated, and I was left accidentally being an independent contractor. And I landed a few really, really big accounts. The first at the time was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in their 2020 bid for the White House, followed by a man named John Ledger, who at the time was the CEO of T-Mobile, followed by my third client was Ryan Serhant. My fourth client was Spencer Raskoff, who was the founder of Zillow. So when I tell you, like, talk about a good hand in Vegas,
Yeah.
I was so lucky. It just so happened that it was real estate, and then my collaboration with Ryan Serhant really changed my life in terms of having an additional level and layer of credibility in the space from my work with him.
Well, and you bloomed where you were planted too, right? I agree that nothing is coincidental. Like it all is tied together if you choose to see it that way. You
Sure.
see everything as separate events and oh, I did this for a little while when I was in college, but or you could say, I learned these things when I was in college. And so I look through the lens of my 24-year-olds, right? So I have a twin boy girl
Mhm.
set, and then our son is married to a 24-year-old. So we have three now.
Mm.
When I look through their lens, Jackson happens to be a funder for a title company right now.
Mhm.
His first soiree in the mortgage space. But as you know, my husband is also, I call myself mortgage adjacent,
Yes, of course, you're mortgage adjacent.
which is fine.
Yeah.
But I'm saying all of that because I think what happens is we pigeonhole ourselves. And so for our listeners, I want you to pay attention to the fact that because you have had experiences doesn't mean that those experiences land you in a specific place only.
Mhm.
That it broadens all the spaces that you could be, and then it helps guide you into the space you belong. That's a fully different view than I'm stuck, right? I'm stuck because I got this degree. And I interviewed a guy not too long ago that he went to pre-med. He also became a lawyer. And now
Hmm.
does nothing with either one of those things because he realized he hated it, right? So just because you have the degree or just because you have the experience doesn't mean you're stuck there.
Mhm.
That's what I see in you, Tyler, is this inability to get stuck, but instead to land really, really well and be excellent in your space. So any advice for those people who are listening who might be feeling stuck or feeling like, well, what I do is only good in this space? What advice would you give them to get them unstuck or realize that they actually have a whole lot of brilliance?
Yeah. I would say one of my favorite methodologies or tent poles is this idea that all timing is perfect timing. And in the moment, I could name hundreds of times that I've been frustrated or annoyed that so-and-so or whatever is happening, whether it's in my career or my professional life or my personal life, whatever it might be. And then when I look back, I realized, thank God I had that experience because that brought me here, wherever here is.
Sure.
And so what I remind everyone is that progress is omnidirectional. We can't say that everything is going to get better every single day because that negates the human experience. Okay. But what I can say is that overarching, just like the S&P 500, okay, if you keep your money invested, you're gonna make more money. Okay. We cannot be day trading, okay, and expecting positive results every day. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what I find is if we can be patient and realize that whichever stage of life we're in, joy, lack of joy, positivity, negativity, we not only have the power to steer the ship, but we also have the ability to change mindset. And it's similar to what you said. I'm not this toxic positivity person, okay? But I do believe in the power of positivity. I do believe in this idea of high frequency, this idea that I'm not sitting here saying that if I just lost my job, me being positive about it makes me pay my rent easier. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is you're going to have the same amount of money at the end of the day. If we're happy or sad, we might as well be happy, right?
Yeah.
And so I know I'm oversimplifying here, but my biggest piece of advice here, if you feel stuck, is know that all timing is perfect timing. You're meant to be where you are because it's building you for something greater. Life's progress is not directional. It is omnidirectional. It gets better and worse and better and worse, but it nets positive every single time. And we just have to have the patience to sit in the present and move forward whenever it's time.
Yeah.
And it's not always time.
You have power in your words, Tyler, and you have clearly said these things before. And what I mean by that is that your message is very clear. And I think people struggle with that sometimes. Like you said, you are a very well-versed storyteller, and really great storytellers are able to get their point across simply, but poignantly and in a way that's repeatable, and that makes you memorable. So in my book, I talk about being memorable. And the way that you do that is you sprinkle, splash, flood, drip, drip, drip information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The sprinkle splash is like, I'm thinking for you, it's some of your posts, right? Where you just kind of dribble a little bit of, hey, this is coming. I'm going to be in this city. I'm going to be doing this thing, right? It's the preview to the movie. But then the flood is the event when you pour all of your information out on people. Problem with a flood is most of that information is lost in runoff. So you have to drip, drip, drip. And that's the, like I'm thinking about the image that I have in my head is you sitting in the theater with your feet up after I happened to see you. And I got to watch that process happen, right? Where they're taking your picture. And I thought, you know what? That's the key to this. That's how you're memorable, is that you're able to say things consistently in a way that brings people back to, wait, I remember what he said. And that's what you want, and that's what you're creating for your people. So good on you for the adult learning practice that you probably didn't even realize was a thing, but it is.
I love that. I had no idea, but yeah, I'm like, if I am practicing what I preach, okay, and it works for other people, it's working for me. And if I'm already sitting here and I preach about getting authentic content, then I need to get authentic content too. So I am unapologetic when it comes to any of that stuff.
Okay, and it's working, and it's working beautifully. Okay, so I could talk to you for days. I know that I don't want to listen for days, though. That's the problem, unfortunately.
That's fine. That is fine.
What, don't they realize that we're really fascinating people?
I know, we are fascinating people.
We are. But I do have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay, I'm ready for you.
Question number 1. What's your definition of fun?
Oh, that's so hard. My definition of fun is having childlike wonder and amazement. Like this idea of nostalgia. I want to be young and free.
I love it. And you probably see that in your niece/goddaughter, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
She is a doll. She is a doll. Okay. How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
You don't question if what you're doing is right or wrong. You just know that it's your North Star, right? I don't question if I'm right or wrong. I'm not talking about factually, right? I obviously do that to ensure I'm accurate. But in terms of how I'm showing up, I haven't thought once, like, am I the right personality for you today on this podcast? With all due respect, I don't care. It's like, this is just who I am. And you're the one who chose to interview Tyler. And so you get Tyler today, right?
Yeah.
And so it's whenever you find yourself policing yourself, oh, is this the right outfit to wear? Oh, is this the right attitude? Oh, is this the right tone of voice? That's when we can tell that something is awry here. So it's whenever you have a lack of self-policing that you realize, like, oh, I'm onto something.
Yeah. So Elise Myers says, if I'm too much, go find less.
Mhm.
And that's what I hear. And
I
I'm
love it. I
fully
love it.
embracing that. Okay. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
I, like every human, have bad days.
Mhm.
Okay. And it's really difficult. I will say that my clients don't allow me to not show up. I have a responsibility to them, and they're sitting on the other line no matter my mood. And I've also learned that if I fake it, okay, I'm talking about a positive outlook and a positive mood, I'm not going to magically be positive in 10 seconds, but it does help me get there faster. And so I would say accepting the fact that we are all human with a human range of emotion, from despair and grief to elatement and excitement, right? Elation, I think is the right word. It doesn't matter.
Elation.
Elatement,
Yes.
elation, whatever. You know, I think that accepting that at face value, understanding that's part of the human experience and navigating it instead of trying to shut it down, is the most important thing that we can do as humans.
And I just wrote down, fake it until you feel it.
100%. I love it.
That's what you said ultimately, and I appreciate that. Sometimes we have to, right? All right, last question, tough question, because you have said some brilliant things and people need to hold on to these things. But by nature, our brains can only hold on to one thing in a 30-minute time period. So if you want to leave people with one major thought, what is the major thought you want to leave people with today?
No pressure. I would say that the thing that is immediately coming to mind, which means it's typically the right answer, is my simple philosophy that I deeply believe. And it's this: the idea that lighting someone else's candle doesn't extinguish your own. It is a business strategy that I have maintained my entire career. I haven't been 100% successful at this. I'm a human, okay? But I have found that the times I try to restrict or get ahead by making sure someone else doesn't get the job, not only do I not get the job, not only do I feel gross, but it doesn't help anyone or anything. I've learned that connecting other people together without needing anything or wanting anything in return, by offering certain services for free, by showing up and just trying to be a good human, that propels my business further than me being cutthroat hustle culture 2025. And so that is something I really try to lean with, or it's something I really try to lead with. And you will find that in everything we do, from our pro bono work to our philanthropic endeavors here at the company, to the pro bono time I try to spend with everyone I meet on the road. Because I deeply believe that if me spending 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes with you, whether that's in person or on Zoom or via email, changes the trajectory of your business or life, then that's time well spent for me.
Well, I'm grateful that you chose to spend that time here today and that you chose to share your brilliance on Productive Joy, because you are a force of nature. And in the best way I can come up with that phrase. And it's because you have leaned in to who you are supposed to be, who you are, and you're not wearing a mask. You are choosing to be yourself. And so for the people listening, I hope that they recognize, one, that that's attainable for them too. And that's who we're meant to be. And anytime we're trying to be somebody else, we're just wearing a mask. So why? Take the mask off, be yourself, and recognize that the world needs more of you, not more of who you think they need from you. They need you. So thank you for being you today. And thank you for sharing your brilliance here on Productive Joy.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yay. And for our listeners, my goodness, you just got a masterclass in all things branding because Tyler does this so well. He's telling his story, but in doing so, he's helping you recognize that he could help tell yours too. So if you are in that real estate space and you need him, make sure that you look him up. We will add all of his contacts in the show notes. And I just need you to do something differently today because of what you heard. So grab onto a nugget or two of wisdom and figure out a way to turn fun into action.